Hello, welcome to lecture 4. We were talking about universal properties of language. Today we will talk about some other features like specialization, semanticity, duality and context dependency, and arbitrariness. So, language signals are consciously and intentionally used. It's not like humans, they do something else and then automatically language is uttered or automatically a sentence is uttered. It's not a side effect of any other biological function. So, what we want to communicate, we very consciously communicate that through language. It's not a byproduct or side effect of anything else. You will understand this better when you compare this communication with, say, a panting dog which hangs out its tongue when it's tired. So, biologically it takes out its tongue because it's tired and it helps in cooling off. So, taking out the tongue actually helps in cooling off. But at the same time, it also communicates to its owner that it's tired, hungry or thirsty. So, you can see that this is a biological function that the dog is doing. It's taking out its tongue to cool off its body. But the side effect is that it also is communicating that it's tired, it's feeling hot, it's thirsty or hungry. But it's not so with humans. If we are hungry, we say we are hungry. And if we want to hide it, our hunger, then we will not say we are hungry. We might even say that we are not hungry. Right. So, it's not a side effect of any biological function. It's very consciously put effort. Semanticity is another feature. Specific language signals represent specific meanings. Meanings or representations have a fixed boundary. So, when I say cat, you know that I am talking about this animal, not this. You will never think that I am talking about this and I am saying I have a cat. You will never think that I am talking about a peacock. When I am saying cat, that means I am talking about this animal. Because there is a fixed boundary. So, cat means a particular animal, and that's why cat will not mean dog or peacock or sparrow or crow. It will mean cat. But then, depending on the context, the meanings can change, and that's called duality or context dependency. In classes, often we say, can you close the door? So, that is actually not a question. Generally, what I see as a reaction is that one of the students, they go out and close the door. And this is very naturally done. Everyone knows when I am saying, can you please close the door, or can anyone please close the door, that means I am requesting them or asking them to close the door. But imagine a doctor asking a patient, can you close the door? That might mean, or the response to that might be, no, I can't, my fingers hurt. That means that a doctor is seriously asking a question. He is not commanding or requesting the patient to close the door. Rather, he is asking that is the patient or can the patient in reality close the door. But the patient might react and say that no, I have pain in my hand, or my fingers hurt, so I can't close the door. So, depending on the context, the meaning is actually changing, or you can say the meaning remains same. It's about the door and closing of it. No one will imagine that when a sentence like can you close the door is uttered, one is talking about an elephant. One will always know that something about the door is being talked about. So, it might be a request of closing the door, or it might be a genuine question whether one is able to close the door or not, depending on the context. But it will be always about the door. And when I say it will always be about the door, that means I am talking about semanticity. There are fixed boundaries for each of the words or each of the sentences. It can't be just random. But when I say that, I also mean to say that it is also context dependent. Depending on the context, meaning will vary. but the variation will also be in that border, right? It will not cross the border. It won't be anything very random. Language rely on the connection between the form and the context. So, form is what is said. Can you close the door? All these words, they are forms, or when I utter them you can hear the sounds. These sounds are various forms, and from that you derive meaning. But the meaning which you are deriving is context bound. If you are in the classroom, you listen to this sentence, you know that ma'am is asking to close the door. But a patient listening to this question in the doctor's chamber knows that the doctor wants a reply to it. So, it is context dependent, but the core meaning of the words, they remain same. That is about context dependency. And also about duality, that means that though the words have fixed meanings, yet we can see there are variations in the meaning depending on the context. Arbitrariness is a very important feature of language universally. So, you might think why we write A, or the sound A is the form which you can see here. This form in English actually is used to show the sound A, or this one. But in Hindi, I write the same sound with this symbol, and in Bangla with this one. So, one might wonder why so? The sound is same A. Why not to write it with one same symbol? Why to use three different symbols in three different languages? And across languages we can see that there are different symbols being used to write different sounds. And one might ask, what's the logic behind it? But then there is no answer to that, because there is no logical connection between the form and the meaning. This is at the level of sound. So, sounds have no connection with the symbols used to represent them, and this is also at the level of words or sentences. So, when you hear the word caterpillar, you know that this is something like this, or you might imagine a different type of caterpillar, but then you won't imagine lion or dog or cat. You will imagine caterpillar when I am talking about caterpillar. But still, this caterpillar has nothing to do with the way caterpillar has been written. There is no similarity. When I utter the word caterpillar, then also there is no similarity with the real object which we find in the real world, this caterpillar. There is no similarity with that. Same is with any word you utter, bee, dog, cat, anything, happy, sad. So, there has no logic or no direct connection between the real object and the symbols which carry those objects, or the symbols which are used to show those objects, or the words which we use to refer to those objects. Words have no principled or systematic connection with what they mean. If you want to find a logic or a system behind it, it can't be found because there is no systematic connection. The meaning is not deducible from the form. So, by looking at a word, if you don't know the meaning of the word and you don't know the context, it's difficult to know the meaning. Just listening to a word, you will not know what it means. Sometimes you can guess looking at the context, but if there is no context, randomly I utter a word and you don't know the word, you can't guess the word. And that's why for the languages which we don't know, we can listen to the words, but we don't know the meaning because we can't guess the meanings until and unless we know the context or something like that, because there is no direct connection. The form is not deducible from the meaning. So, again, if I see a dog and I don't know Tamil, so I won't know what is the word for Tamil in dog, because looking at the object won't give me the form in which, or won't give me the form in which it is shown or in which it is used in language. So, I will never know the word which is used to mark dog or cat in a language if I don't know the language, because Looking at the real object will never tell me that. The connection between the form and meaning must be learned. To know what is a dog called in Tamil, I will need to know Tamil. To know what a peacock is called in Tamil, I need to know Tamil. Right. So, without knowing the language, I can never guess words. Or without knowing the language, just listening to the word, I can't guess the meaning. Because they are not directly related, or because there is no logical connection between these two. Some of the words are taken as onomatopoeic words. It is a common belief that these words actually are reflection of real world things. For example, if you look at dogs barking, so you might think that the words used to show dogs barking actually in reality reflects the actual barking sound of a dog, but that is not true. If it would have been true, then in all the languages the same words would have been used to show barking of a dog. But we know that in English bow bow or woof woof is used to mark that sound, while in Hindi bho bho or bho bho is used, but in Korean mung mung is used to show the sound in which dog barks. So how come that English dog barks in a different way than a Korean dog? It can't be so, right? But it is how we perceive it. It is how we perceive it, and that's why we have different words for them. The words are not directly reflecting those sounds made by the dog or for any animal or any sound. All the words, they are not directly related to the real life or real world scenarios. This is actually helpful. How? Because when you are talking about a crying baby, then you can just say, I saw a baby crying. You don't need to actually enact crying to show that the baby was crying, because you don't have to have a match with the real thing. The forms and the real object, they are not in match, they are not one-to-one match. And that's why the word crying has nothing to do with the real crying action. And that's why you don't need to do the action to show crying of a baby. You can just say crying of a baby very happily, that I saw a baby crying today and it was funny. You can laugh and say that. And the one who is listening to you will understand, if she knows the language, that you are talking about a crying baby. So the baby was crying, not laughing or not smiling, as you are smiling when you are saying so. So that is actually helpful. So language users refer to abstract entities, since it is hard to find combination that involves an inherent link between a form and the abstract meaning. So one can use, and one need not need to enact it. One can just use the words and express whatever one wants to express. It also allows a communication system to be adaptive and flexible. So with time we can change our language as well. The meanings of the words broaden up. In the last lecture I gave you the example of mouse, where the meaning of mouse has expanded from the animal to a device. So this is possible because language is arbitrary. There is no direct connection, so we can actually change the form or develop the form or change the form through which we talk about the real world entity. So when we talk about abstract concepts, or when we talk about language being arbitrary, we also need to talk about form and meaning. So I was talking about the form having no direct connection with the meaning. So in this slide you can see tree is a word which has no direct connection with the tree in the image. A real life tree is very different from the word tree, or the way I say tree. It has nothing to do with the real life tree. So language is a means of communication through semiotic system. So when I say semiotic system, that means it is set of signs. It's all about signs. Tree is a word, but it's a sign, which means tree, a particular thing. Or a bird is a word, is a sign which is used for a particular type of animal, you can say, or flying animals. So, this was discussed by Saussure. I believe you have already been introduced to Saussure in your previous lectures. So, Saussure said that a sign is a pair consisting of a signifier and a signified. Signifier is the form which we use to refer to the meaning or the real life object. So, the form tree which we say, the phonetic form tree or the written form tree is the form. It is not the actual tree. It is being used to refer to the actual tree. So, that is the meaning. The word tree, these symbols, symbol is actually coming together to give the meaning of this one. So, this is the form and this is the meaning. But now, when I say tree or when I say dog or cat, you know I am talking about a dog. But which type of dog? When I utter a word like dog, in your imagination, if I say I met a dog, there was a dog barking outside my house. So, and I ask you what type of dog did you imagine? So, your dog can be very different from the dog which was there in reality outside my door. So, maybe your dog was black and dirty, but the dog which was actually barking outside my house was a very clean and white and a pet dog or someone. So, in our imaginations, the words which we are saying, the forms which we are using can actually have different symbols or different meanings, which you can actually understand through the words reference and sense. I am referring to something, but you are getting a sense out of it, and this sense is language specific and also culture specific. So, reference of a word is the thing, the event, the real event or the real thing of the world, which can be abstract feelings as well, but it is very much real, while the sense is the concept or the idea. So, if I say I bought spoon for my baby, you might imagine the spoon to be something like this, the steel spoon. But in reality, the spoon that I bought might be something like this, the kid spoon. Or it can be just the opposite. I just bought a steel normal spoon for my kid, but as these small kid spoons are in fashion, you might think that I bought something like this because I said I bought spoon for my kid. So, this is actually the sense, the idea, the concept. So, the concepts actually depends on lots of things, depends on our language of course, and also depends upon our experiences, our culture. But what we see is that in one particular speech community, the sense is more or less shared. Because the culture is shared, that's why the sense is also mostly shared. So, when we talk about a mug, for most of say Indian people, the mug will be something like this. But maybe for some other cultures, when I say mug, they may think of a beer mug, which can be something like this. Because this mug is very common for Indian households, we often use it. One will easily think or imagine about this mug when I say I got a mug for myself. But for some other cultures who do not use this mug or who has never seen these type of mugs, but they regularly use these mugs, they can think about this mug when I say I bought a mug. So, that sense actually varies depending on our culture, our upbringing, our experiences, but then mostly speech communities share that. There is a common sense. The sense of a word in its meaning in relation to linguistic system of which it is a part, and this meaning is eternal to the mind. So, as I mentioned, from one mind to another this sense can vary, but again mostly they are same in one linguistic community. And that is why translations of words become very difficult, because translational equivalents of words are rarely accurate because they are cultural specific. As I mentioned, mug for some culture might be this, but mug for another culture might be this. So, different words or phrases with distinct senses could point to the same individual in the world. In this example, you can see Bill, Shakespeare, Anne's husband, the author of Hamlet, the Bard of Avon, all these refers to the same person, William Shakespeare, but they carry different meanings. So, when I am saying Anne's husband, I am talking about someone's husband, I am referring to a kinship term. And when I am saying the author of Hamlet, I am talking about a playwright. So, I am actually using different words which are carrying different meanings, but then the sense is same because it is being referred to the same person in the real life. Now, look at this second example. Here, the planet Venus can be referred as the morning star or the evening star. Here there is no information as such like we saw in the earlier example, and this is very culture specific. One who doesn't know what is the morning star or evening star will never understand that I am talking about a planet and I am referring to it as a star. So, that shows that the meanings are not directly related, but again culture specific. In some culture or in English, the Venus is often referred as the evening star or the morning star, but those who are not aware of them, that for them it will be difficult to understand. Another thing which can be noticed is that in the earlier example there were lots of information. So, I can go back there. So, you can see that when I say Anne's husband or the author of Hamlet, you know that I am giving new information to you. I am talking about a playwright, I am talking about Shakespeare's wife. So, there are different information. But in this slide, you know that no new information is given actually. It is just the difference in the reference. The same Venus is being referred as the morning star or the evening star. So, there is no information as such, and these terms are actually not even based on fact. The earlier one, these are based on fact. The author of Hamlet will not change. So, everyone knows there is only one author of Hamlet. But here, maybe in some other culture, the morning star refers to moon, for example, just saying. So, that means that it doesn't depend on the fact, it is culture specific. So, these two actually together affects our sense, or together these denotes the real life object. Now, when we are talking about science, we talked about basically two types of science, but in linguistics, science are constituted in 4 different levels: phonology, morphology, syntax and semantics. So, in the next lecture, you will know more about these levels. At the lowest level, we find that everything is composed from a small set of sound, or when we write with letters. So, small sounds like b, a, t, 3 sounds coming together to form the word bat. So, we can actually separate sounds, and these are a level of linguistics which comes under phonology. So, each sound and letter has its own value, and when they are combined with other sounds or other letters, they form word which has a real life reference. So, if I just say b, it won't mean anything, right? But when I say bat, I am combining b, a, t, bat, 3 sounds together. It's actually referring to a real life reference, which can be of course ambiguous. So, bat can mean the playing cricket bat or the flying bat, but then it is referring to a particular real life object. So, when these smaller units they come together, they create a word is created which has a real life reference. We have the real life reference, but what will be the sense of it? That depends from individual to individual, though it is mostly common in one particular speech community. So, what we did today is that we talked about 4 more universal properties of languages. Those are specialization, semanticity, duality and context dependent, and arbitrariness. So, we talked about that, and we also talked about signifier and signified, reference and sense. I hope you enjoyed this class. These are some of the readings. You can go through them to have a clear picture about it. And that's it. Thank you.